Conquering the Mountain of Grief. Hi everyone, I'm Vanessa Blackwell, the Grief Strategist, and welcome to another episode of the Grief Helpline. While I know I always talk about struggling with grief, but I also believe that conquering the mountain of grief is so much more. When faced with the death of a family member, it forces you to evolve. You are really stepping out of your comfort zone. You are feeling, you are doing, you are seeing things for the first times you do not want to see. You are doing things you do not want to do and going places you do not want to go. You have to push yourself because you know it's a part of growing. It's a part of life. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is something that I have been through. Let me tell you a little about my story. In 1984, my dad passed. He passed away from emphysema. He was on oxygen and suffered a long time because of it. He was a World War II vet and also worked for the shipyard. In 1998, we lost my loving mom to lung cancer. Mama was quite a character. We still speak and laugh and think of her often. In 2004, my older sister Cheetah passed away. She had severe diabetes and is truly missed by all of us. In 2007, Paul, my significant other, was killed in a car accident. He wasn't sick, perfectly healthy, and then poof, he was gone. I was crushed. In 2009, my brother Gary passed away from a massive heart attack. Again, he wasn't sick, went to sleep, and never woke up. In 2012, we lost my older sister Hazel. She had emphysema and diabetes also. In 2014, my youngest sibling passed away. I was devastated after each loss, but severely crushed after the loss of my younger sister Lish. She was my last sibling out of the five of us to pass. After her death, I founded the Grief Helpline in 2016 to help others struggling with grief and loss. Today, I want to share how to conquer the mountain of grief. I even forgot what it was called, but it's the stages of grief that we want to tackle. And there are actually 5 stages, and the reason why I'm talking to you about this is because I realized that grief is unique. It's different to people. And while it was very unique to me, I think there are some commonalities, though, for some of us. For you who have lost a loved one that we all can share, and I wanted to share. I wouldn't say these are tips, but it's a word of advice on how you can console someone who has lost a loved one in order to be a little more sensitive and be a little more considerate. Okay, so first things first. You really shouldn't tell someone how to feel. For instance, don't tell someone you need to be strong. Really? Think about it. When you have a problem and you tell someone about it, sometimes you're not really looking for a solution. Why? Because you already know the solution deep inside, and what you really need is just someone to be there beside you. Sometimes not saying anything at all is the best response. Just being there, holding their hand, patting their back, and saying, "I'm here if you need me." That's all you need to say. But I think to tell someone what to do and what to feel, because when somebody told me you need to be strong for your family, it was almost like someone was telling me, don't cry, suck it up, move on. You can't be sad because life has to move on. And while I know that everyone who has told me or told you to be strong means well, their intention is good. But if you really think about it, it's a little bit insensitive. So if I were you, if you really wanted to say something consoling, just say, "I'm sorry for your loss," or "I'm here if you need me," or anything resembling to that. So what are the stages of grief? First is denial. Now, a lot of people, when they say, for example, me, I've seen people in wakes, or I don't know what other religions call it. But let's say when somebody loses a loved one, they're at the funeral, and they seem to be holding it all together, and they seem so strong and civilized in the way they look. You have to admire them and say, wow, she's going through so much, but yes, she's so strong. Sometimes this person could be in denial, and that person hasn't really processed the grief and everything that they're feeling. So don't. While I think it's very human nature for us to try and stereotype and try and label people on the phases they're going through, try not to do that. And try not to say things like, wow, you really got it together. You're such a strong person. You're super strong. I wish I was like that when I went through my loss. It's like, please don't do that. Once again, silence is golden. And now for the second stage. I actually learned this when I started studying about grief from Kubler-Ross. I write about the 5 stages of grief in my devotional, The Grief Helpline. It is a 100-day devotional to walk you through the stages of grief, and the second part of the devotional will help you to restore joy after a personal loss. It can be found on Amazon or either on my website at www.griefhelpline.coach. The first stage of grief is denial. After denial is anger. I was in anger for quite a while, and anything that anyone said to console me irritated me when after my sister passed. And you know why? It made me feel terrible because I'm thinking I'm not, an angry person. I was supposed to be grateful and consoling people and my families and my nieces and nephews. But instead, I was angry. I was angry after the death of my sister because I wanted someone to blame. So I realized that I was in a stage of grief and that it was absolutely normal. I realized that going through grief is like going through a breakup. Because if you've ever had your heart broken, of course you would be angry. Oh my God, why did I even deal with a guy like that? Or why did I waste 10 years of my life with that person, and so on and so forth? It's the same thing. Although in varying degrees, but it pretty much is the same. When you're angry, you want to blame. So if you're feeling that, it is a normal process of grief. And then from anger, we go on to bargaining, right? At first, I really didn't know what bargaining was until I actually went through it. And somebody said, that's it. So bargaining is when you say things like, why her? Why my sister? Why my mother? Why not me? Why now? She's so young. She was so strong. Because so on and so forth. You just keep arguing with yourself. You argue with God. Arguing with the world. You will even, maybe no matter how religious you can be, you will question. I swear to God, but you will question because why is it so unfair that you don't understand that it is bargaining? I had actually just finished my period of bargaining. In fact, mine was. I'll be honest, my sister was the youngest. So I thought there were already 2 of my sisters gone. The next to the oldest, then my brother, and then the older sister. I was the middle child, the knee baby. So I was like the extra kid. I'm like the extra one. You know why? I take the only two oldest, and the boy, and the youngest sister. Why did God leave me? So yes, maybe I was still in the bargaining stage. Who knows? but bear with me. The next one is depression. And I've heard stories from people near and far that are in this stage. If you don't get out of it, it can be very dangerous and can be a very bad place to be in for many reasons. So while it's good to honor your feelings, while it's good to accept and even to cry it out, I've learned from this experience because I did not want to cry. I did not want my daughters or my nieces and nephews to see me as weak because of crying. But I realized that I needed to cry. Why? You're sad. And if you're sad, you cry and let it out. Today, I wake up and I just feel real empty sometimes and real sad. And people know that's not me. They think I have a great life, that everything is so perfect and everything is just wonderful. And you know what? It is. It is not because it's perfect, but because I know I have learned to value. I know the value of things now. I know the value of my experiences. I know the value of people. I just miss my family like you would. I'm traveling the world and coaching. I'm retired now. And I'm doing actually what I love. And that is helping people to heal from grief and loss. I should be so happy because I'm away. But I miss bonding with my family. And that was the whole point of this message actually. This message was meant to inspire because I still miss them. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy. I'm very happy. But it's like you're happy now and then you go back home and it's still the same. They're not going to be there. You be asking, why am I recording this? Because I want you to see that my life is not perfect. That even if I'm on social media and it looks that way, but it's not. I find that crying and journaling is therapy. It is a release. I prepared all of these things in my kit. I have the workbook, the devotional, the journal, a coloring book, and several different products to help individuals to restore joy after a personal loss. I use these tools myself. I know they work. It is definitely that this is all I do. I spend time creating products and helping people to heal from grief and loss. When you are dealing with grief and you start journaling and crying, and you use this as, but you start crying, you be crying, find yourself crying, and you use journaling as a therapy, it's a release. You are letting go of something, you letting something out. And whatever sadness, whatever pain, whatever, anything toxic needs to be released. You need that in order to be whole again. And if tears will do that for you, then let it be healing. Accept that crying is not a weakness. It is just a part of the healing process. Going through grief is a process, like I said, and it is something that you actually have to go through. It is a step-by-step process that you must go through. So after depression, obviously I had not gotten to the last step, which was acceptance. And just like that, any breakup or any heartache or any loss that you may feel, finally, at least I know what the heartache is like or the breakup was like. One day, you're going to be okay. I'm okay now. You just move on and go through these things, but you don't forget. I don't know how I'm going to charge it to. I've charged mine to experiences. But it's definitely one of the most humbling experiences that I would never wish on anyone. But I think if you're a part of a family, as we all are, at one point in your life, you will have to go through it. Whether you go through it with yourself or a loved one is going through, the best you can really say is, I'm sorry. Be honest. To be honest, I don't even like condolence, saying my condolence. I don't really sometimes understand what that means. I don't find that it's warm. Again, that's just me. So I'll always just say, I'm sorry for your loss. because I am. You are sorry because you're sad. You know what a loss is like. Whether you lose your most precious ring or your dog or cat has passed away, a loss is a loss, and we are all allowed to grieve. We are allowed to mourn. So you, as a supportive person, should be able to give that permission to a person to grieve. They have the right, and that is how you support them. This is how you show love. So anyway, I'm Vanessa Blackwell, the Grief Strategist, and I'm wishing you love, peace, and joy. Until next time, come with me to conquer the mountain of grief. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Conquer the Mountain of Grief to let us help you to slay your grief starting today. Let's get started on the journey to joy today.